SEC talk. The last time that we were with this, well, we were talking about a completely different sport as March Madness was about to be tipping off. And hey, look at us, Wade. We got our national champion pick right for the first time, feels like in a decade, with the Florida Gators taking down the Houston Cougars in a fantastic matchup if you were able to watch that game just a couple of days ago. But we are here with you as we always do as one of our annual shows in the off season. We are just weeks away, 2 weeks now from the NFL mock draft. From the NFL, we're doing a mock draft on the NFL draft that will be taking place in Green Bay, Wisconsin. So Wade, are you excited about this? And how was your weekend?
Yeah, I'm always a draft nerd.
Yeah,
Love doing the mock
from
drafts with you.
fantasy football to
Yeah, it's kind of the start of the season. Now that I play in that dynasty league, I'm paying extra attention to all the rookies, especially the guys on offense, because landing spot does matter. And every year, it seems like we see guys hit the league and make an impact right away. So it all starts on draft night. So unfortunately, this year I will not be watching. I will be in Paris. So not an unfortunate circumstance, but it is unfortunate timing because I do love the draft. But it's okay. I'm sure that Tyler is going to give me a real nice recap when I get home.
yeah, I'll definitely give you a nice recap. But how we're going to be doing this is how we do it pretty much every year. We're going to be alternating picks. We're not going to go like full rounds. We're just going to be focusing on the first round. But you see in the title, I think that everybody's going to be wondering who's going to be going in the top 10. But we're going to be going from 1 to 32. So let's go ahead and waste no time. Wade, you're going to be on the clock with the number 1 overall pick with the Tennessee Titans. Let's go ahead and start this. Also, if you want to do your mock draft at home, you can just go to NFL Mock Draft Database Simulator. I know there's like a ton of ads here as you're going to see as we do this, but this is a great way to do your own mock draft at home if you would like. So let's go ahead and start this draft off. If it lets me, there it goes. So the Tennessee Titans and Wade, you are on the clock for pick number 1. So who you have kicking off this draft with?
Yeah, I don't think this one's going to take too long. Of course, the commissioner is going to take out the full 10 minutes to make the pick as they always do, but I think this one was wrapped up at the combine. I think it's going to be Cam Ward. I think that he's got the most supreme talents and physical attributes at quarterback in this draft class, and it sounds like he did well in the interview period, and the Tennessee Titans think he's the guy of the future.
Yeah, I think that if you asked me a couple of months ago, I thought that Shadur Sanders would be the number 1 quarterback going off the board. But like you mentioned, things could change, at the end of the college football season as well as the scouting combine pro day, the Tennessee Titans seem to be. I mean, if you look at the draft, the odds of Cam Ward going, it's minus 20,000. So it would be pretty shocking if it wasn't Cam Ward. But I definitely agree that the Tennessee Titans right now, the way that their quarterback situation is set up, you got Will Levis as your starting quarterback right now. He just hasn't been the answer. So it's definitely a step in the right direction for a Tennessee Titans team that has been down in the past couple of years. So Cam Ward, their first quarterback going off the board. We'll see how many quarterbacks fly off the board here in the first round. As we continue on with pick number 2, and that is the Cleveland Browns. Looking at the top team needs for Cleveland here, based on this mock draft simulator, you have edge, corner, and wide receiver. I think that they're pretty much in between two guys with Travis Hunter from Colorado. Whether he's going to be playing mainly corner or wide receiver is going to be answered, I guess, in training camp as well as in the season. As well as they're going to be looking at Abdul Carter, but ultimately think they're going to go with Travis Hunter here. I think that he's definitely one of the best players in this draft class, so it's hard to pass up on a guy like Abdul Carter. But this is a team that definitely needs some help in the secondary. So Travis Hunter goes off the board. And we'll head up to Cleveland. So one cold city to the next. So pick number 3, the New York Giants. Story of the offseason was them getting both, Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston. So do the Giants go another quarterback here, or do you think they just go best available player?
Well, I mean, I thought this would be a team that would go quarterback. but they did bring in not just one but two veteran options, like you said. If they had just brought in Wilson, maybe I still think they go quarterback. But it kind of seems like they're going to wait at the quarterback position. I don't know if that's the best idea. It says a lot about Shedeur Sanders and their camp because he should be sitting there for him at 3. Um, but I think they're going to be very happy to see Abdul Carter just sitting there. And I think that they just take the best available. I don't think it's necessarily a huge need of theirs, but it's always good to have a pass rush presence in the NFL.
Yeah, I definitely think that Abdul Carter, looking at really all the other defensive players, he's definitely by far the defensive player. You can make a case for Mason Green, the defensive tackle out of Michigan, but Abdul Carter, I think that ultimately he's the best player outside. You look at the top two players in this draft, it's Abdul Carter and Travis Hunter, not named a quarterback. So that's definitely a good pick. Some defensive help for the Giants. Now let's move on to the New England Patriots at pick number 4. This is a team that just drafted a quarterback just a couple of years ago, and they just added some more pieces to their weaponry in the draft with some wide receivers too. So this is a team that could go either way here. Top need though is going to be the offensive line, and I think that we all know who's the best offensive tackle in the country. It's a guy that we're pretty familiar with, as he is from LSU, and that is going to be Will Campbell. I think that he's going to be the first offensive lineman going off the board there. It seems the NFL mock draft database simulator also like that pick as well, already grading that pick as an A plus. But I think with a young quarterback with Drake May, you definitely need some offensive line help. This was a team that wasn't very good at protecting the quarterback last season. I think that Will Campbell definitely a step in the right direction. So the LSU Tiger goes off the board there in the top 5. Now let's go on to the Jacksonville Jaguars. I think that this is like really where the draft starts. It feels like where the top 4 teams are going to be picking. So who do you have the Jaguars taking here at number 5?
Well, I think the Jaguars will be very happy to see probably 2 of the guys that were highest on their big board, with Mason Graham sitting there and then his college teammate Johnson, the corner. Now, look, they've made this mistake in the past and reached on a couple cornerbacks, and they've hit on it before. They went and got Jalen Ramsey in the top 10, and that seemed to be a slam dunk pick. But I think they just continue to build that defensive line. I mean, they made a good pick a couple years ago with Trevon Walker out of Georgia, so now they need to get somebody in the middle, and I think they go Mason Graham, who honestly was, a consensus top 5 pick going into the season, and some people had him sliding out of the top 10 by the end of the year, but I think he does find his way back in the top 5 just off the talent.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that that's definitely a great pickup. You just talked about that Trevon Walker pick just a few years back. So the Jags add to the trenches and get the best defensive tackle in this draft class. Now let's head on to pick number 6, the Las Vegas Raiders. Their top 3 needs are running back, receiver, and quarterback. Well, I'll be interested to see if they go quarterback. I don't think it will happen around number 1. They did just sign Geno Smith, and they also just extended him. So if they go with quarterback, I just don't really see it happening. Maybe it's a round 3, round 4 pick. But I think you just got to get a playmaker right off the bat here. You got to help Geno Smith, and it's going to be the best running back in this draft class, and that is Ashton Jeanty. I think Jeanty, if he doesn't go to the Raiders, Dallas could definitely be a team that could trade up, maybe get ahead of a team like San Francisco or Chicago up there. But I think that the Raiders would Jeanty, I mean, like I just mentioned, you got Geno Smith. Why not get him a toy to play with? And Ashton Jeanty, the running back out of Boise State. So that's the Raiders. Do you agree with that pick? And do you see Jeanty going to the Raiders, or do you see him falling down to the Cowboys?
I mean, I think the Cowboys would be the floor for him, but I think that there's 2 or 3 teams in there that would be interested in taking him. So I think it's a good selection. I mean, we've seen guys get drafted early like that with Bijan, Leonard Fournette, just to name a couple. And, they ended up having instant success in their first 2 years. So Las Vegas is a weird team. I don't love taking a running back. I don't quite understand the Geno Smith trade other than the fact that they got him for basically nothing.
Well, Pete Carroll's the head coach, so that makes a little bit of sense.
Yeah, no, it does. I just don't know where this team's at. I think if they like Sanders, it would be worth taking a flyer. I just don't see a running back bringing this team into contention. Um, but I think if he's an instant impact and Geno can play at a top 15 level, I mean, all of a sudden you do have one of the better quarterback running back duos in the league. So
Yeah, absolutely. So let's go on now to the other New York team. We just saw the Giants taking, I believe it was Abdul Carter with their pick. So we have the Jets, the Justin Field led Jets. What direction do you have them going at pick 7?
I don't know, man. This team has a lot of needs. You they brought in Justin Fields, but is he going to be the guy or is he a bridge again? I mean, it's just hard to say. Do they want to get him a weapon? Do they want to protect him? I think the most neutral pick is just going with the best offensive tackle there out of Missouri, Mimbu. Um, him and Campbell, you see him flipped in the draft standings. So I think whoever's available, I think they'll snag.
Yeah, absolutely. So another offensive tackle, both from the SEC. And now we get on a run here with two NFC South teams. First up is the Carolina Panthers. Looking at this simulator, the top needs for the Panthers are edge rusher, corner, and defensive line. You really look at the edge rusher rankings. You have Abdul Carter off the board, so your top ones would be Mykel Williams or Jalen Walker. Then you move on to the cornerback position. I mean, Will Johnson, you have Jahdae Barron, the cornerback out of Texas. So those are two cornerback options. In the defensive line, you definitely have some top options here as well. So I just honestly have no idea what the Carolina Panthers are going to do here. Are they going to go offense? Are they going to go defense here? But I think you just got to go with the best edge rushers here. You really need to get somebody that can get after the pass rusher there. So if this thing can actually work and can I get back to the edge rushers here, I can go ahead and make my selection. Sorry about this. This is kind of being a little buggy tonight. But okay, well, I'm going to go with Jalen Walker, though. You have two, you like pick and choose your two Georgia Bulldogs. Either you want Mekhi Williams or Jalen Walker, but I'm going to go with Jalen Walker there. You get some help on that defensive line. So now let's move on to the New Orleans Saints. This was a team that just got some news yesterday, reported by Ian Rappaport, that Derek Carr is potentially going to miss the entire 2025 season due to a shoulder injury. Before, there was a lot of smoke surrounding Shedeur Sanders. Do you have the Saints going quarterback or somewhere else at 9?
I mean, there's definitely a fit there for Shedeur. I just don't. I don't know if all that smoke is just coming because of the Derek Carr news. But look, if the Panthers pass up on McMillan, I think Carolina's got to be thrilled. I think New Orleans has got to be thrilled if he's still on the board because honestly, Carolina or the Jets could take him. So I'm going to go offense here, but not quarterback. I'm going to go with the receiver, Tet McMillan out of Arizona. I mean, I just think that if Chris Olave is healthy, that gives them just such a good wide receiver unit that's young. I like Rashid Shaheed, but he's not a wide receiver two in the NFL. I mean, you just can't expect him to play that role. I think that you got to go get a more prototypical, big-bodied NFL receiver.
Yeah, absolutely. So there goes the first wide receiver off the board there with Tet McMillan. So definitely would be an offensive pick there for the Saints. So Shadeur's fall continues in this one because you really look at the other teams, they really don't need a quarterback. So we now close out the top 10 picks with the Chicago Bears. Their top need is running back, but the best running back is off the board here. So really, Chicago could go any way here. They have a guy like Tyler Warren where they could just plug in and play into their offense. So they could get a wide receiver here. I mean, you look at Ted McMillan. The other wide receiver that is really on this list is Matthew Golden. I just don't really see them. I think Chicago just goes with a guy that they could just really plug in anywhere in the offense. I'm going to go with the tight end out of Penn State, and that's going to be Tyler Warren. he can really play any positions. He could, if you want to put him as a slot receiver, you could do that. If you can be a blocking tight end, he can pretty much do it all. So Chicago adds another piece to their weaponry on the offense, helps out Caleb Williams. So Tyler Warren, pretty much the only tight end that you're probably going to see in the first round of this draft. So Warren off the board, going to Chicago. Now we go to pick number 11 with San Francisco. Where do you see the 49ers heading with pick number 11?
Um, this is a team that can probably just go best available. They're not contenders, but they're not that far off. Looks like they could use some help at the offensive line, but of course the two top guys are gone. But and they don't need a corner. I'm trying to look. No, they don't need a corner.
Yeah, the corner is down the line.
Yeah, then I think they just go with Banks out of Texas. I mean, no need to overthink it. Get a premium position while you're picking this high. I mean, I think it makes all the sense. And then I think you can bolster some of the skill positions later on, get a linebacker as well. So go with the premium position now and take Banks.
Hey, I know it's not a sexy pick, but you got to help out Brock Purdy there on the offensive line there.
Well, and if you're going to have to pay him, you got to get him some cheap help, right?
Yeah, true. Absolutely there. So there goes another offensive tackle off the board. So that's 3 offensive tackles there. With three of them coming from the SEC. So the SEC just keeps producing a bunch of big boys on the offensive line. Now let's go on to pick number 12, the Dallas Cowboys. Their top need is a wide receiver. However, the best wide receiver is off the board with Ted McMillan. Could they be going with Matthew Golden? I could definitely see that. They do need some help on the offensive line. If you were watching the Cowboys, this was just like every offensive lineman was getting hurt last season, so that could definitely be a help for them. But I think that they're ultimately going to go with an edge rusher here. We're going to see another Georgia Bulldog go off the board. I don't know why it's still on wide receivers. I'm trying to get to the edge rusher here, people.
It wants a wide receiver, Tyler.
But I'm not going to go with Mekhi Williams here. I'm actually going to go with Shamar Stewart. I think that he stays close to home there. And we see Shamar Stewart, the edge rusher out of Texas A&M, go at pick number 12. So now let's go on to the Miami Dolphins. Their top needs, offense tackle, corner, and interior offensive lineman. Where do you see Miami going with pick number 13?
Well, they're probably pretty mad that I took Banks to San Francisco. They'd love to get Tua some help. However, they're going to be very happy to see 2 stud cornerbacks there in Jahdae Barron and Will Johnson. We'll go with Johnson just because of the draft pedigree. But I think either one is a good fit there at number 13.
Yeah, it's a little bit of slide for Will Johnson. I mean, if you would have told me like before the start of the college football season, Will Johnson would have been a lock for a top 5 pick. But he was dealing with some injuries in the 2024 season. But this is still one of the best cornerback prospects in this draft class. So Miami to get him at 13, I feel like that's a steal to me. So Will Johnson, if it can, come on, man. Just like I'm clicking there. Okay, what the heck is going on? All right, there we go. Finally able to get Will Johnson's home on the Miami Dolphins. Now let's move on to the Indianapolis Colts. So this is a team that is probably punching the air right now. The Chicago Bears took one of their best tight end picks because the Colts, they need a tight end, like pretty much anybody in the NFL does. But really looking at the tight ends, I just don't see another tight end going here in the first round. So I think that the Colts probably going to use one of their day 2 picks on one of these top tight ends. I'm trying to get it listed here. Sorry again that this simulator isn't cooperating with us at the moment. But you could go with Colston Loveland. You know what? Screw it. I think that they reach for him a little bit here.
I think he's a first-round talent.
Yeah, definitely. So, you know, I know that you have Mekhi Williams there available, but this is an offense. If you really look at them, they definitely need some help. You know, you have Michael Pittman. You have some star wide receivers as well. But I think that they go with Loveland, the star tight end out of Michigan. Honestly, I didn't even know that he was a first-round prospect, to be honest with you. So I apologize for saying that there's only going to be one.
I live in the dynasty world, Tyler. He is. Some people think he's better than Tyler Warren because he's taller and faster.
Well, there you go. Just 4 picks apart. You have Colson Loveland and Tyler Warren, both Big Ten tight ends, going to the north. So now let's go on to the Atlanta Falcons at pick number 15. Last year, they surprised us all by picking Michael Penix. Where does the Falcons go this year? Maybe defense is their time to shine.
Yeah, they don't need to go quarterback here. I mean, the verdict's still out on Penix, but he's got to be the guy.
Yep.
Um, well, I think they just stick close to home and go
Mm,
pluck a guy from UGA here in Makai Williams. Seems appropriate, and I think they're getting a value there. I mean, he could have been
yeah.
drafted 5, 6 picks ago, so good pick there.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yep, doesn't have to move too far from home, but the
Mike
Arizona
Green's sitting there
Cardinals.
still too. I mean, he's a
Yeah,
good prospect.
Yeah, Mike Green is an underrated prospect. Could the Cardinals go there? They could definitely go with Mike Green, so we could see a little bit of a run on edge rushers. But I'm going to go with Jahdae Barron, the cornerback out of Texas. I don't think he's too far behind Will Johnson in this quarterback draft prospect. So I'm going to go with Barron, the quarterback. There's been a lot of Longhorn picks in the first round of this draft so far. We'll see if there's any more. But now you get the luxury of going with the Cincinnati Bengals. Do the Bengals get some defensive help for a team that couldn't really stop anybody in 2024?
Yeah, so I think Cincinnati, after signing T. Higgins to the extension, probably is going to have to throw in the towel on Trey Hendrickson. It just seems like they're too far apart. I would actually expect to see a draft day trade of
Mm,
Henderson, and I think Cincinnati will pick up a second or third round pick as a result. So
okay.
um, this will be a big draft for them, and I think they're going to be absolutely thrilled to see Jihad Campbell or Mike Green
Yeah.
sitting here. I'm going to go with Green just because of need, but I think either of those guys would be a tremendous add to this Cincinnati defense. But Green is a guy
Yeah, if
that
you look at that
potentially
board,
could plug and play.
yeah. Yeah, if you really look at that board, there's still a lot of defensive tackle. Let me scroll down here. We haven't even got to the safeties. If it lets me scroll down, let me. Yeah, Malachi Starks. We haven't even talked about him. He's still available. That's the top safety prospect in this draft class. Jahad Campbell, one of the best linebacker prospects in this class too. Now let's move on to the Seattle Seahawks. This is a team that, as you can tell, they need some offensive line help. So let's go ahead and look at the available interior offensive lineman to see if there's anyone to take. I just don't think that Zabel is going to go. Maybe he's a later first round, but I just don't really see him going here at 18. Is there any offensive tackles to remaining? I just don't really see it. So maybe they go corner. But I feel like they just go best available player in need there. So you see cornerback, you see linebacker. I just can't really pass up Jahad Campbell going to the Seahawks here. So this is a team that's just tonight Tampa Bay because they need a linebacker. But Jahad Campbell, I see him going to Seattle
Yeah, no, I like that
there at
pick.
pick number. Todd, he's going to make a nice home there in Seattle. All right, so now let's go on to the final team here in the NFC South, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. You look at their team needs: linebacker, safety, and receiver. Does Baker Mayfield get himself another weapon, or does Tampa Bay go defense here?
I don't think they need to get him a weapon necessarily. I mean, they did just re-sign Chris Godwin. McMillan looked to be a good third receiver.
Yep.
They lost a lot of defensive players in free agency, so I think they're going to look at safety, corner, or linebacker. Um, we just saw the top linebacker go off the board, so I think they need to get a safety. So I'll give them Starks.
Hey, that's a pretty damn good pick at pick number 19, getting one of the best safety prospects in this draft class. So Malachi Stark's going to make himself a home there in Tampa Bay. Let's go on to a team, the Denver Broncos. In last year's draft, like many teams, they drafted a quarterback in the first round with Bo Nix. So I don't see Shedeur Sanders going close to home there in Colorado. But you look at their top needs, the running back. I am curious to see who is the top two running backs prospects behind Ashton Genty. Can you guess, Wade, who's number two before I pull this up?
Probably Amari and Hampton from UNC. Looks like Leonard Fournette
Well,
out of
there you go.
college.
You must have been doing your
But
research.
Trayvon Henderson would play well in that offense too, and Judkins. I mean,
Yeah, he
teammates.
would. He definitely would there. So a lot of really things can happen here. They could definitely go running back because this has been a team that has been desperately, going the running back position. I think that they pulled the trigger. I mean, this is a team that pulled the trigger on Bo Nix. I think that they could either go with either three of these guys, but I'm just going to go with the next best available prospect, and that's going to be Amarian Hampton, the running back out of North Carolina. Though I could see them go with Trevion Henderson, wouldn't shock me if they pull the trigger on one of these Ohio State Buckeye running backs. But I am going to go with Hampton here at number 20. So that's two running backs in the first round. So now let's go on to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Do you see Shedeur Sanders making home here in Pittsburgh?
I don't know. This team hasn't really figured out the quarterback position, but they did make the big trade um, for DK Metcalf, so I don't see the need to go receiver, especially with this receiving class not being that great. They'll probably add somebody later. They could go running back, but what's the value in that? They just did it with Najee Harris, and then he walked 3 years
Yep.
later. And it's a pretty deep running back class. So, yeah, I think Shedeur goes here. I think that there'll be a I think this is a good landing spot. I think there'll be some mutual respect between Mike Tomlin and Coach Prime. So I think that's a good landing spot for him. I think they'll probably look to add another quarterback via free agency and maybe let Shedeur sit a little bit. But if he does have to play right away, I mean, he probably is the most polished quarterback outside of Cam Ward.
Yeah, I mean, the top available free agent right now is Aaron Rodgers. So Rodgers still hasn't been signed yet. Pittsburgh is the top one. Maybe the Saints make a phone call, but maybe not. But we'll just have to see how that plays out. But yeah, Shedeur Sanders, if he doesn't go in the top three or even to New Orleans at number 9, I think that Pittsburgh is the next team that's going to be in the market for them. So Sanders goes to pick number 21, and he finally his fall is over. So now let's go on to the Los Angeles Chargers there at pick number 22. Their top three needs are tight end, defensive line, and quarterback. Well, unfortunately for them, the two best tight ends are off the board. So I'm just going to go with the best defensive lineman there. Another Michigan Wolverine off the board, Kenneth Grant, goes there to the Chargers. This is a team that definitely needs some interior help on the defensive line. They get it here with Kenneth Grant at number 22 there. So now let's go on to the Green Bay Packers. As soon as it lets me pick Kenneth Grant here, Jesus, man. Maybe don't use this simulator because this is having a lot of issues so far. As we wait here, come on, man. Let me take Kenneth Grant. Okay, maybe this is telling me don't take Kenneth Grant, but I'm still going to take him anyways. So Kenneth Grant is going to be a Los Angeles Charger there. So now let's move on to pick number 23. I guess we'll just have to see what their team needs are. But here you have the Green Bay Packers taking at pick number 23.
Ah, there you go. It's like the real draft. You have to let them
Yeah,
have the
you
full
gotta
60
wait.
seconds.
They're stalling.
They got to be able to print the name on the back of the jersey, Tyler.
Oh yeah.
I don't know. Green Bay, I feel like they're pretty close to being a contender. They don't really have like a wide receiver that jumps out at you. They have a few good wide receivers, but I don't think Matthew Golden would really put them over the edge there. So I could see him waiting there. Not really any corners of note, unless you want to move Nick Imawari, to corner. Who's that guy from North Dakota State? I just think he'd fit right in there in Green Bay.
Let's see. I think he was one of the offensive tackles. Well, let's wait an hour for this to pull up here. I believe it was. Man, I just
Oh
saw
no,
it.
he was an
Can't even
interior.
remember. Oh, he was an interior. Okay, let me go to interior offensive line. Yep, Gray Zabel, interior
That's who they
offensive lineman
need.
out of North Dakota State. Oh yeah, this is a
He's already
Green Bay
wearing green
Packer
and
pick.
gold. Knows how to play in the cold. That's a good one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. So good pick for there. We have back-to-back NFC North picks. So Zabel goes to Green Bay. Now we have number 24, the Minnesota Vikings. Top needs are safety, defensive line, and wide receivers. Well, I got a guy just for you. He's from South Carolina. Nick Emmanuel from South Carolina, one of the best safeties in the SEC. had a terrific season of South Carolina defense that really played well throughout the season there. South Carolina had a better season than many people thought. So give me the safety. So he goes from Columbia to Minneapolis. So that's definitely going to be a culture shock for him, but he's going to be going up north there to face off against some talented quarterbacks in that division. So there is another safety going off the board there. So now we have pick number 25 with the Houston Texans. This is a team that really made some strides last season, winning their division once again, making it to the playoffs. So where do you have them going with pick number 25 as soon as we get Nick on the Minnesota Vikings here? Come on.
We're in the green
Jeez.
room.
There we go. All right, so Nick has left the green room, and now we go to the Houston Texans. Wade, who do you have being a Houston Texan?
Well, look, this team made a huge leap and made the playoffs, and they had probably the strongest wide receiver room in the NFL. And then some injuries happened, and they just kind of fell apart there at the end. The offensive line was really, really bad, but the only good one on there was Laramie Tunzel. They trade him, so I know they would love to get some offensive line help. I just don't know if I see it at this stage in the game. And I know they listen to CJ Stroud a good bit. So if he wants Matthew Golden, I think he'll get Matthew Golden. But I think he wants his old college teammate, Travion Henderson. So I think that's the route they go.
Ooh.
And a little bit of a shocker here. I think they go running back. I mean, Joe Mixon was great last year, but when it mattered, he kind of lost his
You're getting up
stride.
there in age.
Yeah, he's 30, I think. So
I'd say like getting up there in age, like he's not old, but in football
well, in
terms,
running back years, 30 is old.
yeah.
So,
I mean, Derrick Henry was what, like 30, 31, and he still is balling. So
and that guy's a one of a kind guy. So,
yeah.
yeah, I just think, and I think they could complement each other. I mean, I think that Henderson could come in and start off as a third down back, be a pass catcher, but let Mixon still pound it in the red zone.
Yeah, I'm surprised that we have three running backs going in this first round.
It's
But
a
hey,
good
you got to
class,
take
though.
yeah, it is a deep class like the wide receivers. I have a wide receiver going here. You just lost Cooper Cup. You have Puka Nakua as your wide receiver one. Well, Matthew Golden can slide in right there as your wide receiver number two there. So I'm not going to waste any time there. I don't know why I just went to the edge rushers there. I was just trying to pick Matthew Golden, but this is the pick there. I think that outside of Ted McMillan, he is the best wide receiver prospect in this class. So you lost Cooper Cup, you get Matthew Golden. We'll see how that pans out. But I think at pick number 26, it feels like it's going to be corner or wide receiver with majority of the quarterbacks already gone. I think as deep as this draft class is in the wide receivers, you go with one of the best in Matthew Golden in the first round. Now let's go on to pick number 27, the Baltimore Ravens. It feels like this team always draft defense. Does this happen again in 2025?
Yeah, I mean they typically do. They'd love to see an edge rusher fall down, or maybe a safety. But I think there's a guy that stands out to me is Walter Nolan. I mean, he
Oh,
could
he's
have been a top 10 pick, and there he is. And that's just what the Ravens do. So at pick 27, they're going to go get, um, a severe discount on one of the better defensive players.
Yeah, just adding another monster to that defensive line with Walter Nolan. He was a five-star prospect. He originally went to A&M. As always, the days of the transfer portal are here. He went into the transfer portal, and Ole Miss landed him, and he played really well for the 2 years he was there at Ole Miss. So the Detroit Lions, a team that also needs some defense. Well, I got a guy for you out of Tennessee, James Pierce. Unlike his teammate Nico, who's trying to take like millions and millions of money, James Pierce is going to make millions of dollars himself by going to the Detroit Lions. That's to get some young talent there. Go with James Pierce Jr., one of the best edge rushers in this draft class. And James Pierce, I know that the season didn't quite in as well as Tennessee hoped for. But I am going to go, okay, well, this sucks. Hopefully it saved, because if it doesn't, well, we're cooked. Yep, it didn't save. Well, oh well.
We
I
have
guess
4
we'll.
picks left. We can.
Yeah, we literally had 4 picks left. So, all right, I don't know how we're going to be doing this, but I guess we'll just have to work around it. But all right, I don't know how we're going to do this, but let's go ahead and select all. Obviously, we can't get back to the point that we were, but we will try our best here. Honestly, we might just have to go to somewhere else to try and
Yeah,
do
just pull
this.
up.
But the I'm just
The
gonna
draft order.
Yeah, let me go ahead and pull up the draft order. We'll go ahead and finish that. Sorry about that. I just don't know what the heck was happening with the
They
simulator.
picked the wrong
But
site
let
this
me,
year.
yeah, the site that I usually use is now behind a paywall. So that's
That is
definitely
unfortunate.
exciting. But I don't really know how we're going to finish this out there. But we did left off with the number 28 pick with the Detroit Lions. So now let's go ahead and finish this off at pick number 29. Let me go ahead and present this. This is definitely not what I had in mind for tonight, but we got to work with it. Let me go ahead and share my screen here. All right. So we are back on the clock here with number 29, the Washington Commanders. Trying to do this off the flow here. We do have 4 more picks, so I guess we can go ahead and look up some draft prospects. But who do you have the Washington Commanders going with? They absolutely schooled everybody in this draft last year, picking Jane Daniels at number 2. They did add Debo Samuel in the offseason, so don't really think they need another offensive weapon, but you never know. So who do you have Washington taking at pick number 29 here?
Well, I mean, look, Devo Samuel is a great addition, but he's kind of a gadget player, and if there's a guy that they believe in, I wouldn't let it stop me from taking him that late. And honestly, there's one guy that you and I both watched a lot in college that jumps out, in Luther Burden, but I think he's too much of the Debo role. Let's go with another Ohio State receiver because that just seems to always work out. And let's give him Amika Egbuka there
Mm.
at pick 29.
Yeah, so another weapon for the
They could go
Washington
defense.
Commanders. Yeah, they could definitely go defense. Look at the biggest needs here, according to NFL.com: edge rusher, corner, and wide receiver. So wide receiver is still one of their top needs. I mean, you had a guy like Emeka Ibuka. He could be the wide receiver 3 behind Terry McLaurin, behind Debo Samuel. You just don't know what Debo Samuel is going to be. He didn't have that great of a season last season for San Francisco. So definitely could be a plug-in player for them there at pick number 29. Now let's go on to the Buffalo Bills. Their biggest needs are corner, D line, and wide receivers. So this is a team that could also go wide receiver there. I'm trying to pull off the draft prospects as we do this. So let's go ahead. I'm trying to also figure out who's still available, but I am going to go with. Let's go ahead and look at the top cornerbacks there and who's already taken.
Maxwell Harrison is shown as the top one in
Yeah,
my
Maxwell
list.
Harrison could definitely be an option for there. Trey Amos, maybe he could be a late
Siobhan
flyer there for
Riddell.
them. Looking at the defensive linemen, we already picked, Mason Graham's off the board. Derek Harmon could be there. I think they ultimately go with Derek Harmon there, the defensive tackle out of Oregon, and get some help on the defensive line. So that's the first Oregon Duck of the draft, a team that was undefeated in the regular season. So that's our first Oregon Duck there. Now let's go to pick number 31, the Kansas City Chiefs. They could pretty much get any player they want, and they would still be really good. So who you have the Chiefs taking at pick number 31 here?
Yeah, keep in mind that the Chiefs could opt to trade back and pick up some extra picks, but they also have the luxury of sitting back and picking a player that's fallen down the board. I think that they'd like to get some help on defense if they can. They also just lost some offensive line to free agency. Let's see who we got at interior offensive line. Well, don't know if anybody.
Technology, don't we love it?
I'm seeing Tyler Booker as the top guard. This is how it must be in the real world. You don't have a
Yeah. Yeah, they have a bunch of draft boards. I mean, they just cross out whenever somebody's taken off.
Have
So
we
like,
taken Josh Simmons? I don't think we have.
I don't think we've taken Josh Simmons yet.
All right. Well, I think Josh Simmons would look good in the red and gold. I mean, they probably aren't going to be able to keep Trey Smith much longer.
Yeah.
Um, it looks like Rasheed Rice is going to avoid going to jail, so they don't need to take Luther Burden. Although that to take the home state talent there, that would be pretty
Yeah.
enticing. Um, but I think they'll take an offensive tackle at the end of the day.
Yep, gets Patrick Mahomes some help there on the interior. So Josh Simmons is off the board. Now let's go on to the Super Bowl champs, the Philadelphia Eagles. According to NFL.com, their top three needs: safety, D line, and corner. Obviously, they lost some big blows. C.J. Gardner Johnson is no longer there. Who else is not there? Who was it? Oh gosh, he's Darius Slay is also isn't there anymore. So that's two big needs that they need. So I'm going to go with the third best safety in the draft. He's from Notre Dame, Xavier Watts. If you watched him in the playoff run, he was an absolute dog for this team. So plug in a guy like Xavier Watts. You already got a guy like Cooper DeJean, who absolutely balled out in his first season with the Eagles. So you had a guy like Xavier Watts, play him alongside Cooper DeJean. And honestly, to me, you got one of the best 1-2 punches in the NFL at the safety position. So that is our first round. We made it. A lot of technical difficulties happened. Thanks for nothing, that database simulator. Maybe don't use that one. Maybe it was just with the software that we use here to do it that was kind of bugging it out. But we were able to make it through. Let us know who you have going in the top 10 of this draft. Definitely curious to see who you have. We did have Shedeur Sanders falling all the way to pick number 21. But wait, what were your overall takeaways of our mock?
Well, I think two quarterbacks is probably all you'll see unless somebody really likes Jackson Dart. Um, but like we saw in ours, I mean, you got quarterback at number one overall, and then not again until the 20s. So,
Yeah.
I think New Orleans or New York, either New York team could take a quarterback. It wouldn't surprise anybody. Jackson Dart could
Yeah. I mean,
go ahead of
couldn't,
Shore.
we didn't even do any trades. I mean, I think that the reality is that we're going to see some of these, like whoever has like pick 36 through 40 is going to move up and maybe take a flyer on Jackson Dart in the later first round.
Yeah, because you do get an extra year of team control. So it's popular to do that for a quarterback. But there's also an opportunity for a team like New York or New Orleans that is picking near the top of the second round to
Yeah.
maybe get a position of need first and then get a quarterback in the second round, whether it be Will Howard or Dart or Quinn Ewers, something like that. Um, I think, and maybe we just missed it there because of the technical difficulties. But to me, Abuka going that late and then Luther Burden not being picked in the first round, I
Yeah.
mean, that surprises me a little bit. Matthew Golden's flashy; he's got the speed, so I do think that he will be a first round pick. But we're so used to seeing 4, 5, 6 wide receivers go in the first round. You know, we only had 2 or maybe 3. So do we see a guy like Luther Burden slip in there and make it 4? And I think maybe so, but he also didn't have that good of a year this year.
Yeah, I think that a lot of teams, if you don't have them as like your top need, you're going to push them down the board because of how deep this draft class is. You can get a guy like Jaden Higgins, the wide receiver at Iowa State, early second round pick. I mean, this draft class, I mean, you can draft a guy on day 3, he could turn out to be a first round talent. I mean, we did have 3. I think we had Golden, we had Abuka, and we also had Ted McMillan. So I think that's probably going to be your top 3 wide receivers going off the board. Wouldn't shock me. Luther Burden sneaks there. I mean, the Kansas City Chiefs could be an option there. Don't know if Philadelphia goes wide receiver. More than likely not, especially with the defensive.
Maybe Baltimore.
Yeah, Baltimore could be an option because that's a team that really needs a wide receiver. I mean, it's like Zay Flowers is on the field. Like, who else are you going to throw to? Mark Andrews. So that could definitely be a team that could get a flyer on the wide receiver. But that is our 2025 NFL mock draft. We appreciate everybody for tuning in to tonight's live show. I hope everybody enjoys the rest of your weekend, and I hope you enjoy the draft. In a couple of weeks, we'll definitely be tuning into it. Wade will be in another country trying to tune into it on his phone. I'll be tuning into it to see how this draft pans out and if we have any surprises like we did in last year. So we appreciate everybody for tuning in. And for us here at SEC Talk, so long for now.